All right, guys, so the Skill 4 video talked about finding the midpoint if you know both ends of the line, okay? So today we're starting out with one endpoint and with the midpoint, and we're asked to find the other end, okay? So if one of those ends is at 1, 6, and we know that the middle of the line is at 2, 4, okay, how can we figure out where the other end of the line is, okay? And it's really easy to visualize this with the graph, right? If this is the end of the line and the middle is right here, we can just follow that pattern down, right? Down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. And the other end of our line has to be right there. And the line that we ended up with has our midpoint right in the middle of the line, which is exactly what we wanted, okay? We can also solve this equation using algebra, okay? And to do that, we're going to need the midpoint formula. And the midpoint formula looks like this. Okay? And this is what we did in the last video when we were finding the midpoint, right? We added the two x's together and divided by 2 to find the average x value. Okay, this time though, we're given the average x value, right? It tells us the midpoint. Okay, so when we plug our values in, we're going to use the midpoint, and we're actually going to plug in over here, right? This 2 from our midpoint, we're going to plug in as this midpoint x value. All right, our other x value can go in either one of the other x spots. Okay, and now we've got an equation that we can solve for x. Multiply both sides by 2. Okay, and subtract 1 on both sides, we get x is equal to 3. Okay, and we're not done though. Okay, the answer isn't just 3 because our answer is a coordinate pair. Okay, so we have to find the y that goes with this x. So let me change colors really quick. We're going to scroll down. Okay, we're going to use this exact same equation, but instead of the x's, we're just going to use y's. So this is going to be ym equals y plus y divided by 2. And once again, we already know the midpoint y value, right? That's our midpoint y value right here. It's 4. So when we substitute, it's going to be 4 equals, let's see, 6 plus y divided by 2. All right, there's our 6. And once again, we'll multiply both sides by 2, subtract away 6, and we're left with y is equal to 2. Okay, so what we ended up with is an ordered pair. The 3 is our x, the 2 is our y. And if we look up to the graph, this point right here is 3, 2. So you can solve this problem using the graph or using our algebra.
All right, guys, we're going to try another one just like the one Mr. Matthews did, where instead of giving you 2 endpoints and you find the midpoint, we're giving you an endpoint, we're telling you the middle, and you're going to give us the other endpoint. Now, I'm going to prove it with algebra first, and then we'll see if our graph can also prove that the algebra is true. Now, Mr. Matthews already gave us the midpoint formula. I'm just going to write it up here again, first for the x values. We first have xm, and that little m is just a reminder that this x value comes from our midpoint. And that's going to equal our x plus x divided by 2. And this is really important. The 2 x's that are in your numerator over here always come from endpoints. So if I look at my given information, we only gave you one endpoint, so you only have enough information to replace one of those x's. Both of those have to come from endpoints. That's an important part of this formula. So one endpoint means we will end up with one missing value. So let's set it up. What's my midpoint of the x value? I see that's at 3, is equal. Remember, the numerator always comes from endpoints. So let's see what x values we have from an endpoint. I see we have a 2 there, x comma y. So we'll say 2 plus x. I didn't give you 2 endpoints, so we still have an x there, divided by 2. Now we just need to solve that out. Pause the video, try and solve that out on your own. Okay, always start by undoing our division. Times 2, times 2. 2 times 3 is 6 is equal. We haven't touched that numerator. Bring it on down. 2 plus x. We'll subtract the 2 away, and we'll get that x is equal to 4. So we're done, right? Nope. Remember, when we do midpoints and endpoints, we need coordinate pairs. You need an x and a y value for a true proper answer. So we're going to do this process again, but we're going to do it with our y values now. Same formula. ym is equal to the 2 y values of your endpoints divided by 2. Now let's see what that is. My y endpoint, the y value of my midpoint is -2. That little m is a reminder, that's my midpoint, equals, these values must come from your endpoint. I only have one endpoint, and I see that y value is 0. So I'll have 0 plus y divided by 2. Pause, try and solve it. We're going to undo our division with multiplication, times 2, times 2. And we're also 2 times -2 to get -4 is equal to 0 plus y. There's nothing to do. Adding 0 to something doesn't change the value. So we're just done with y is equal to -4. But now we need to put our two answers together into a nice ordered pair, x comma y. I'm going to put 4 comma -4. Sorry, we're back. Little technology issue. Let's prove if that's the exact middle of those two endpoints. My first endpoint is 2, 0. The other endpoint that we just solved for is 4, -1. -4. And my exact middle should be 3, -2. 3, -2. If I go down 2 and over 1, go down 2 and over 1, it looks like we successfully found the endpoint given the midpoint.